All right. Welcome to another episode of the Freedom Real Estate Podcast. And today we have a special guest for you guys, Ian Hogan, who is one of the original members of the Candor team.
One of the OGs, yeah.
Hell yeah. And me and him might be the same person because, as it turns out, we're both engineers. We're both into house hacks, and that is how we got started. And we both get yelled at Andrew for doing shit ourselves when we should be hiring it out. All right, so Ian, tell us a little bit about how you got started, and essentially he's going to take you through his very first deal, start to finish, as well as the beginning and the next chapter of his story, as that is a deal that we're going to deep dive today. Take it away.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Yeah, like a lot of people, similar method of starting, pretty much realizing, hey, I don't want to necessarily work forever. I want to have some control over my life.
Yep.
Started paying off my student loan debt. Those engineering degrees are expensive.
Yeah. What's your degree in? What kind of engineer are you?
I have a master's and undergrad in electrical and computer engineering.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. I'm mechanical.
It can't all be electrical, I understand.
Hey, I still know how to program.
Yeah, I don't use any of my degree for my actual job, so it's mostly just managing people and systems engineering. So
Sweet.
Here I am. But I think the mindset of engineering helps out so much with investing.
Oh yeah,
so
for sure.
It's easier to be numbers related. And then so basically started going to meetups and things with Candor back in like 2019 timeframe. Started looking at properties in Worcester. Basically focused in on that market, mostly because it has a high amount of rental properties, renters, growth was happening at the time. We would never have expected what happened in Worcester after like 2019 started 2020 started getting super hot, one of the hottest in the country.
All the people from Boston started moving back for their remote jobs and doubled the size of the city essentially.
Yeah, somehow COVID helped out real estate a lot. Not expected whatsoever.
Yep.
Ended up looking for a property. I needed some heavy value add because I didn't have a lot of money for it. So I needed to add in that sweat equity, a lot of bigger pockets books, big on that. So I was all for it, especially being hands-on tendencies from being an engineer. That being said, I had no idea how to do like renovation stuff myself, so a lot of YouTube and learning as you go. Yeah,
YouTube is amazing for that. I get caught in that trap myself still, even though I'm also trying to hand off as much as I can. It's like, oh, the sink is leaking. It's almost faster to look it up on YouTube. Hey, how do you like fix a leaking sink versus finding who to call and then getting an appointment schedule. The plumber comes out. Man, I already had it done like 10 times by now myself, right?
Yeah, and I mean, as you go, I would do certain smaller jobs, but I also, depending on like the contractors that you hire, some will help you like figure out how to do things. So I would have some contractors working in a unit while I'm doing other stuff, and if I'm messing something up, sometimes they would like pull me aside and be like, hey, you got to do it this way, and they did it in a nice way. They didn't do it in front of like my tenants at the time.
That's cool. That's a great way to learn right from the pros.
Yeah, and then like, you know, for small stuff, like you hire some contractors are hard to nail down or be reliable. I know Andrew has like a lot of good ones and a lot of crews and whatnot, but if you're smaller, it's not necessarily the easiest. And then when doing something simple costs like $300 and you're like, I could have done this for like 20 or 80 on my own, and you have the means to be able to learn how to do it and do it, then, you know,
exactly,
I'm going to do that.
You can also kind of figure out what kind of stuff you want to sub out versus do yourself. Like, for example, flooring, that's very time intensive. That's a lot of grinding, cutting. If they got to sand the floor, restaining, that's just work I don't want to do. And I'm not necessarily saving a ton of money by doing it myself. It's not that much more to hire somebody out. But for example, to do like plumbing under the sink or like a small bathroom, that could either be $5,000 with a pro or like $200 of Home Depot materials in a couple of hours. I'm still leaning towards doing it myself just because it makes so much more sense.
Yeah, as long as you do it right. As long as you're not like one of the landlords that puts in like that accordion tubing.
Yeah.
I always look for that when I'm with clients, and I'm like, if you see that, you gotta start looking out in other areas of like
Maybe they got leaks, or maybe they got
half-done jobs.
exactly.
But this kind of like all leads to the big like learning experience. The first property I got was like a very massive job. It was a fourplex in Worcester, mixed use. So that on its own makes it a bit difficult for like most first time buyers or people that are going to Househack. And it had, number one, some lenders won't even lend on it. There's certain rules for like FHA for the percentage of square footage that they'll accept for commercial space. And then they have their own limitations on top of that. So a lot of them wouldn't do it.
So you still did an owner-occupied low down payment loan for this, right?
Yeah, so this is an FHA loan. Technically, it was a 203K, which is an FHA plus a renovation. It's 3.5% down, including the reno. So that's especially when rates were super low. This was the cheapest way you could ever get renovation money.
Gotcha. And how much renovation money did you have?
This was a big project. It ended up being around $130,000 to $150,000 of renovation on top of the purchase price.
That is crazy. So you got quotes before you closed. That's what it came out to be, and that's what the bank accepted.
Yeah, there is some nuance there. Number one, we got it under contract right in March of 2020 as everything is shutting down.
Yeah.
You ideally for these bigger projects, you want to have the HUD inspector, which comes out and tells you things that you have to do, which are like the safety things that are going to fail FHA. Some are kind of silly, like peeling paint will fail FHA. If you don't have 2 hand railings and there's more than 3 steps, that'll fail FHA.
Yeah, the most obnoxious random things. Like I had issues with, like the drawers under the sink not having doorknobs. Like, please, why do you need door handles? Like, how does that help FHA? But they'll write you up for it.
Yeah, so 203K can get you past that stuff. So I also had a contractor walking with me. For those, you have to have a general contractor do it. It can't be yourself. It can't be like a family member.
Yep.
Check on all those. And we basically walked through the vision of this. This property had like a really small studio on the first floor, and then a commercial space that was very large and wrapped around that wasn't being like fully utilized. And then 2 normal rentals above, like both 3-bedroom, 1-baths, very standard in Worcester. And the grand vision was making better use out of the space, minimize the commercial space. And I was able to basically plan out taking 1,000 square feet from the commercial, adding it to that like studio, that studio tiny first floor unit. And what we ended up designing was a 3-bed, 2-bath apartment, which 2 baths is great. It's a first floor level, so that's even better. So basically trying to maximize the rent that you can get to it. And also by shrinking the commercial, I found a lender that would do it, but I've had other lenders that said no at the time.
Interesting.
So it makes it better for resale because that commercial unit is so small now. That commercial unit went from like 1,900 square feet down to like 900.
Wow. You really gutted that thing.
Yeah, and it's still a very usable commercial space. Like very, very straightforward. We updated that, like standard LVP floors, drop ceiling, put in the lights, made everything like very usable and functional.
Nice. Now, did you have to deal with the city at all in terms of zoning, in terms of reusing that space from commercial to residential?
No, I spoke to, and something that you want to do before you close to see what you can do. I also considered making the whole thing residential, but because it's already a mixed use, they don't care if you move some of the space into residential as long as one unit stays commercial. Like it doesn't incur anything to make that thing to like a 1-bedroom or a really tight 2-bedroom. It was going to cause a zoning change. I spoke to the fire department. I would have had to put sprinklers in the whole building because of that change of use. And at that point, the rent difference of like a commercial space to like a 1-bed is not worth the 30 to 50 grand of sprinklers.
Oh, wow.
Decided not to do that.
Got it. So what were the rents before? What were they after? What kind of renovations did you do to get them there?
Yeah, so that entire 3 of the 4 units were vacant. So the rents kind of weren't there. The second floor unit was vacant. Did some rework. Found, back in the day, they covered nice hardwood floors with carpet. And we removed that carpet, refinished that stuff, repainted, and some new updated cabinets. And, that unit's good to go. So at the time, I was probably getting like $1,100 a month. And back in 2020, it went up to like $1,400. Now that unit's at $1,900. And it could probably go a bit higher because that was a couple of years ago.
Wow.
So, and then third floor, those tenants have been around forever. They were at like 700, and they've been good tenants. They keep their unit very nice, which is a hard thing to ask for some points, and like they don't need help on the smallest of things. Like I've had tenants calling for changing the light bulbs and stuff like that. These tenants do not do that. So I've reasoned with them over time, and theirs isn't anywhere near market rent, but an acceptable fee.
And they're still there now to this day.
They're still there now.
Interesting. And what are they paying?
They're paying $1,300 right now.
Got it.
So pretty low, but they've been like trying to limit my headaches throughout. And then that first floor, that studio would now, with market rent, pay like probably $1,300-$1,400 maybe. It wasn't that like nice of a unit at the time. It was very tight, very strange. And now that it's a 3-bed, 2-bath, completely updated, that entire studio space is basically a 1-bedroom with its own private bath. And then plus 2 bedrooms, a nice open kitchen and living room area. And that's rented out for $2,300. So
very cool.
A lot better functionality.
Nice.
And even with that 900 square feet commercial, it's rented out at $1,100, and it's actually rented out to like a small church community. So in Worcester, there's a lot of those like smaller churches that will take like any kind of smaller space as they grow their congregation, and they've been great so far.
Nice, very cool. And so this is a house hack for you. You lived at this property for how long?
So the whole thing was I planned to live at this one. Well, the end result was the only thing that kept me going through this. I had a lot of issues with the 203K at the time. There were some things that we had to do, like both the roofs are replaced. There's a flat roof, which was not part of the 203K, that failed like months after I bought it.
Oh man.
Luckily, it only damaged the already like being renovated unit, so not the worst. And then we did the roof like the normal shingle roof up top. So some capital things like that, but most of the work was converting that commercial and residential. The 203K can't work on the commercial, so I did most of that work, framing and things like that,
nice.
Rebuilding the bathroom, and then had people do like the flooring, like you said.
Gotcha. So nights and weekends.
Nights, weekends, I was less busy at work at the time, so I was able to take like a week off or so and just work on it. But then like the contractor himself, very nice, still talk to him to this day. I would not necessarily use him as like for a bigger project, which I think is fair. But he had some health concerns and some bad subcontractors that extended this thing out from like 6 months to taking 4 years.
That's
so
crazy.
I had full intention of moving in. Even my stuff was moved in. It was in a pod for a while in the driveway. Then I moved it into the commercial space, and I ended up just living with my now fiance's family for a while this was kind of like in limbo.
Got it. And so what kind of work did you do? Tell me some about some of the headaches, some of the learning experiences of getting your hands dirty in a household situation.
Yeah, hard to know without the experience at the front. So while this property took a lot of time to get to a stable point, to where it's really realizing its all the growth and benefit, like bad communication of the subcontractors. I think my GC went through 3 different electricians.
Oh my God.
And because of the changes that were happening and the changes that Worcester itself was happening, they wanted all the meters put outside. There was miscommunication on that, powered down in like, I don't know, it happened to be like coldest day of like January or February or something. And the tenants didn't have power. I put them up in like a hotel for the day to accommodate that. And then ultimately the power company, National Grid, and the city came out and they were like, yeah, no, this is not what we want. This all has to be redone and you can't use these things.
Oh man, that's
So-
after the work has already been
It was
completed.
after the work's already completed, thousands of dollars. And the city was like really bad on communication, but the electricians apparently just went with it without full confirmation, which was a big mistake. He got another electrician that did some of the work, not all of it. And then ultimately how I got this thing through the finish line was I started doing like my own final repairs on things. Nothing crazy. It was just getting like the cabinets and the counter and everything put on, finishing up the painting. And I basically had my own electricians who I trust and use on all my properties now. Back to hard finding good contractors. But these guys are very dependable. They know the inspectors of Worcester really well, so that's always a benefit. And they were able to take it across the finish line on the electrical. I had my own HVAC sub come in to finish off the heating unit, and I basically pulled my general contractor across the finish line of this project to finish it up.
That's wild.
Yeah. Did not expect to do that, but that was the only way to do it. You can switch GCs in a 203K, but the big thing on a 203K is it's a lot of paperwork. And to do that at that close to a final stage would probably cost a lot more money to do it. I would have had to have another GC bid, and I would have had to have the current GC do a lot of paperwork. And I didn't want to. I'd rather have finished it myself than deal with that, pretty much.
That makes sense. When you're that close to the finish line, just sometimes you got to get the project done, and you got to do it for the people that you're paying to do it.
Yeah, and I mean that rent at the end is worth it for how much I bought the property for at the end. So it was like seeing that light at the end of the tunnel really
Got
did
it.
it.
So you bought this property for how much?
So I forget what I originally offered on it, but basically did the inspection, and this didn't even include the commercial space, which I ended up gutting. It had so many problems. It was a laundry list of things on that inspection sheet.
No, so what was the purchase price?
Yeah, so I ended up bringing it back down to $363,000, which for a fourplex in Worcester back in like 2020, those were going for like probably around $450. So the total loan with that renovation was about like a $513,000 loan.
Wow.
Which now with the rise of the Worcester market, hopefully pays off.
Nice.
So,
And now you're selling this for $760?
yeah, listed right now for $760, trying to get the benefits of that property and roll it into trying to go up and move my journey off of Househacks. Not trying to move around as much. My fiance is out of school and has her job, so trying to stay put and trying to get into doing less of the management myself, and also get into 5+ units where the value that you add by increasing rents, lowering your expenses directly relates to like the appraisal value of that building. So I'm trying to get into that space and inch my way in.
Nice.
So
from 500,000 all in to 760 in 4 years. That's not a bad return at all.
yeah, there were additional things that make me question it, but either way, it makes it pay off. Besides just the investment itself, I've learned how to do pretty much everything and what to look out for. Also being an agent, I think it helps out. I've done so much of this work, or even seen the pitfalls of certain things to avoid, that I know where to point out to other, like my buyers, of like, hey, you want to keep an eye out on this. This isn't that big of a deal of what you're doing. Like they get that shock of seeing it like an inspection, and they're always going to be a laundry list, but it's like you don't really have to worry about these. This is what you want to keep an eye out on, and a lot of that time is in the basement, to be honest. So
So this basically is making you an agent and inspector all in one for your clients.
Yeah, I would give the caveat I'm not an inspector, which I do to my clients, but I've been in enough inspections and done my own work to basically I can help mediate between like the inspection sheet that they get and what is in reality.
Yeah.
Which, that being said, the inspectors that I always request my clients use if they want are always extremely good at explaining the same things that I would explain as well.
But still, that gives you way more of a value for your clients than just a regular agent, and especially if they're investor focused and looking for the kind of work that you might need to be doing. You already have that expertise, and you can tell them roughly how much that would be, or what's a headache, what's not a headache, if they're getting a little bit too worried or scared about certain projects.
Yeah, I definitely think so. When I became an agent, like the whole focus was to be for investors, like people in my same situation. And I think it's a disservice if you're an agent and you don't actually own real estate. You don't understand how like the tenants things work outside of like maybe you did rentals as an agent, but beyond just like getting the lease agreements, you don't usually have that experience. And if you don't own your own properties, you don't know the headaches to guide your clients through. So I think it's a disservice.
Exactly.
I think agents that own their own properties and deal with those things give a better benefit to their clients overall.
Exactly. And honestly, I don't even fully trust agents that don't own property, because you don't believe in your own product basically that you're selling. That's just crazy.
Yeah, kind of nuts. I mean, some people, if they're earlier on but they're like looking to get into it, that's one thing. If they're not doing it at all, I find it kind of weird. There are some nice benefits of being an agent and an investor, because you can get your own commission on your own deal. And I don't know, when I'm my own client, I can move so fast because I don't need to, it's very straightforward, and I don't need to consult other people.
That's awesome. Very cool. So do you help Andrew run meetups? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So Andrew had the great idea. The reason why the Worcester Meetup exists is because of Andrew, even before he was on Candor at the time. I think he was just like, he had that realization of not trying to be stuck in his 9-to-5 and not living paycheck to paycheck. He was able to roll the capital off of like one of his condo in like Boston into a great stepping stone of multifamilies in Worcester. And he was just so hungry that he just proposed the idea of hosting a Worcester meetup to John Babacci, the CEO of Candor. He went with it, and then I was helping him and Sabrina at the time basically run the meetups, trying to orchestrate that. Over time, Andrew's basically used me as like the tech guy with trying to set up things like we have better sound systems now.
You guys film the meetups as well?
Yeah, I filmed the meetups. That one's just by chance of me having the camera for other goals, but it's working out well so far. And then Andrew's such a growing powerhouse that he gets like some great speakers on that. So
absolutely. And then this brings us to one of the coolest side projects I know that anyone has ever done, which is the website. Tell us about
the data.
Absolutely. You're like our very own local data deli here in Worcester.
It's fun. So it started actually before I was an agent. When I was getting, like you get the email list from your agent at the time, and you see all these properties. And I basically was like, I don't want to have to look through all of these. I want to just be focused in on certain ones. So I basically...
Like your buy box, basically?
Yeah. I mean, you already have your buy box that you give to your agent. But even off of that, you can get a lot of different, like, ranging things. So basically what I did is I created an application that scraped that email that I would receive. Actually, it would log into it for me online. And it would take that, it would run it off of some like HUD fair market rent data and some other information that I would give, and it would give a score. And based off that score is whether I would look at the property or not.
Clever.
That's where it started. I taught myself that. I do have a background with some coding, but I had to change for that. And to be honest, I don't do a lot of deep hands-on technical stuff at work. So this was also an outlet for that. So it was like a win-win.
And so how did you develop the site? How did you basically grow it to become almost a stable piece of the Candor team?
Yeah, so John, in the first days of the meetups that we do, he would show the MLS's like market reports, and I didn't really like how those showed. The graphs weren't that good, but he would mostly show a table, and it would just show plus or minus like changes. And I was like, this isn't a great way of visualizing like growth. You don't actually know if you don't have a background of like what happened before. So I hated that, and I ended up becoming an agent. I could see all the data that was there, and I basically just take the data and then I reformat it into charts that I like. Things that I think are important indicators to investors, like not just the number of listings and sales, but also like how much people are paying over asking, as well as how fast the properties are leaving the market. Things like that are some of the charts that I post monthly. And then if you want to do that any sort of scale, like to do that by hand, I did try it out. It was like a couple hours just for one town. And not all towns in Massachusetts are good for multifamily, but there's 365 towns in Mass. And if you were to try to do that, it'd be unruly. So I can do all of that in the span of like an hour, and it's all automated.
Nice. And so your website can give you that market data for things going above asking, number of listings for any county in Massachusetts now.
Any county and any town.
Very cool.
Yeah, so Candor basically uses it for their newsletter. I present it at the Worcester Meetup, and then I also would do like some other, either other investor friends or for like other podcasts or things. I'll create like special run-ups of data. The data that I have with those charts isn't all of it. It's a massive Excel sheet, so much so that Google Sheets is not a fan of it. It's about to crash every time.
Wow.
But you can pull up some very interesting insights
Very
on
cool.
it that other people do not have.
Nice.
So it's been a blast. I have ideas for the future of it, being able to show the other data points that I don't necessarily show now. And then the idea has always been around of like a subscription model of like that higher end data that is hard to figure out on your own.
What do you want to do in the future? Tell us about your vision.
Yeah, so there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of numbers, a lot of noise. People don't know like what's important. Everyone always just asks me, so when's the next recession coming for the market? When's everything going to bust? Because they want to predict their stuff. Number one, I would say don't base it off of like those markets, because it's hard to tell. There's a lot of lagging indicators out there.
Because all the data you look at is things that just happened in the past month, right? So it's hard to predict what the future is going to be necessarily.
Yeah, so for example, this is like the first year in at least the last 5 or 6 that like inventory is starting to increase in certain towns. Worcester is one of those. And like people get real excited. They're like, is this like 2008? Is that coming? Because if you see that spike, it's an insane amount of listings, low sales. And I'm like, it's very interesting, but you gotta hold back a little bit. The sales are like a few months behind this. We have to see how the sales work towards this.
Exactly.
So people should have an understanding of the market, but they should base their numbers and continue to buy. Like if there's a good deal,
at today's numbers,
like you should run with it. If you're worried about like a future downturn that's like imminent, then maybe pad your numbers a little bit more, be a little bit more conservative, and don't get leveraged to the point you're going to put yourself in danger and lose properties and things like that.
And one big element of a recession or a crash in the market is not only a lot of listings that are currently active, but sales going for way under asking. Right now, we have a lot more listings in Worcester, but they're still at that peak market number. And if they don't really go down, it's really hard to say, oh, it's a crash or there's going to be a big correction. And people are still paying that all-time high value for those houses.
Yeah, I pulled this recently, and the prices are still going up. They might plateau a little bit. They're not there yet. The listings are increasing. But if you look over like 20 years of numbers, the sales, while they do fluctuate a little bit, the sales are always still right around each other every single year. regardless of the listing count. So
Yeah.
just like the last 5, 6, 7 years, it's been basically a 1-for-1 of like sales to listings. As that increases, that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially as prices still increase. Seems to be irrespective of like the interest rate. It usually freaks people out for about a month, and then they continue buying.
Exactly.
What I've seen. I think there was a hit in like 2023 where January was like super low when rates just increased in like December or something.
And then people adjusted to the shock and got back into the market
Very quickly, like
Yeah.
within a month or two.
So that means if you're in the Worcester market and you're waiting for all of those sales to mean that you're going to get a house for half price, that's probably not going to happen. And if you're going to wait for that, you might miss out on a good deal.
Yeah, the longer that you wait, the more deals that you're going to miss. You should evaluate the deals that you get at the time. I mean, and that being said, like if you're in the stance to be able to wait and buy these properties at like, I don't think they'll hit half price, but a significant reduction, then you're a bit more advanced of an investor at that point because you have the ability to pivot so fast.
Exactly.
And you're likely already at that point anyways, so you didn't have to wait.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you buy your house today, let's say $600,000, and it drops to 5 in the next year, but your rents are there, your rents are still high, your tenants are paying off your mortgage, and then a year from then it goes back up to 6 and up to 7, you're going to be glad that you still bought instead of waited, especially if, okay, maybe you did hit a $500,000 valuation, but then somebody else scooped it up.
Yeah, it's like a similar comparison to like stocks. Like you don't want to panic sell when things dive down. I think people realize this a lot during like the COVID market time frame when like stocks were fluctuating crazy and then had a great like run increase. You don't want to do the same thing with real estate. As long as you're not super leveraged or doing some like crazy risky things, you're gonna keep your house. Rents don't drop like property values can drop. So they might drop a little bit, but nothing anywhere close. So as long as you bought right, your rents can handle the building. Like you're in a really good state. And if you want extra like safety around that, during COVID, I specifically targeted Section 8 rents. Kind of.
And Section 8 almost never goes down. It only stays the same and goes up.
Yeah, it matches, for the most part, it matches the HUD's fair market rent. I think it can go down. I'd have to look at that. But
I've never seen that.
I don't think it goes down much, if anything. And the things that, in a downturn, that you want to be careful about is, like, if your tenants don't have a strong job, part of, like, tenant screening and everything. But Section 8 will pay, to some degree, a majority of their rent. So it's a little bit of safety net, and why I targeted it during COVID.
That makes sense. Another thing during a downturn market, I've only been investing for a handful of years, so I haven't seen every single part of the cycle. But if there's a downturn and a lot of houses, even let's say, go on sale, it doesn't necessarily mean that a lot of people qualify for mortgages. Usually lending tightens, and it still means that either the same amount of people are looking for rentals, or even more people are looking for rentals because if they're losing their house, they by default become a renter. And so the rent market will stay strong, usually in most economies, even if house prices themselves go up and down.
Yeah, so if you're like getting really into looking at what markets you want to invest in, you usually also want to like look into job diversity, because if like one major section of like the job market goes away, you don't want your renters to have to leave that city, because while those renters go up, they might have to go elsewhere. So you want a pretty diverse market, and Worcester being like the second largest city in New England, kind of like helps that out.
And they have a lot going on. They have everything from medical to a new sports arena to a local economy, as well as anybody that commutes from Boston. So generally speaking, it's only going up and up.
Yeah, and pharma's coming to Worcester. They've been investing a lot into bringing facilities out here because land is cheaper. They're like all in Boston, and I think there was hesitation there being like an hour away, but I think they're realizing that it's like not too far down I-90 to like, get here. So
and people are willing to go in there and do those jobs.
Yeah, so as like the market tightens up, people will accept having to drive more. I mean, and it's not too bad. I drove to work like from the Worcester area like an hour and 10.
Oh wow!
So
and you still work in Boston, or you still do?
No, I used to work up in like the Burlington, Bedford area.
Got it.
Also like an hour and 10. And now that I moved to Boston, my commute's a little bit less.
Yeah,
so
that's a lot better. So I myself, I'm actually also looking at Househack. I put in an offer yesterday, and it's a 4-unit with 1 unit being a commercial space. It's a hair salon, and the other 3 residential. And I'm looking to potentially convert that into full residential and get that, basically collect full residential rents.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the process of what it takes or would have taken you if you were to get that. I understand you need a variance, or you need to basically get permission from the town to make that conversion.
Yeah, you really want to do a lot of this due diligence like upfront before buying it to know what you can do. What I'd recommend and do recommend to most people is like talk to the fire department. They'll tell you like the change of variance, what that will incur on you. In Worcester, it's likely you have to sprinkler the building, so understanding that cost, as well as in some areas, if there's all residential units around you, they're probably more likely to like be fine with you doing that. And in some cases, they want additional parking, which, you know, we can't just make parking grow on trees. So that can be a difficult one. I don't actually know how much like this city is like targeted towards that, but some care a lot, and it probably depends on area and the street parking situation.
Yeah, and there's ways around it. Like for example, if a neighbor is got a big parking lot or a big driveway, you can usually rent spaces to say that they're included with your unit, and that is one way to get around that.
Yeah, or if there's like other commercial spaces near you that have larger lots, creating deals like that and being creative is really beneficial. There's usually like, you don't want to be the investor that hits like the first no and it's like, oh, I can't do this. The whole thing around being an investor and like an investor focused agent is being able to think creatively to get like the deal done and like in the best way.
Exactly. Cool. So tell me a little bit about what your goals are for the future. Are you looking to shift fully into real estate from 9 to 5, or do you want to keep your W-2 for as long as you can? What are your plans?
Yeah, so current plans are stabilizing what I have. I have a couple of renovations going. I am looking to pivot my future real estate into like the 5 units and up, so that I can get into a different lending game, as well as like the additions that you add, like increasing rents and things like that, directly correlate to increased like growth, and then from there, you know, playing Monopoly and 1031 exchanging up from there. So that's kind of like the goal. I'm trying to pull myself out of the management side of it. So I have other duplexes that I'm still doing the management. Some are more intensive than others.
And then you'll be looking to sell all of those in the near future?
Not necessarily. It depends on like the numbers and the value on those, if it's worth it. If one is just stagnating, maybe it's worth to cut the losses on that. But I have another duplex that is like very stable on its rents versus the cost that I bought it at, and like the tenant base, like I barely have to go out there. So that one is not a big time suck, so I might as well keep it unless I can do something with the equity, which right now there's probably not too much equity in that building. So it's better just keeping it. So that's kind of like the goal. I'm not necessarily looking to leave my 9 to 5. I do like the mission that I support, even though it might not have the technical like hands-on piece that I like, but I get that at home, basically figuring out what I would live with. But I do want the flexibility of like, hey, if I no longer like it here, I don't want to be like trapped in this job or like worried about my future. I basically want to use real estate to create flexibility for myself to be able to make those choices.
Got it. So do you have a financial freedom number that you're trying to hit, or how many buildings you like to own before that happens?
I go back and forth on this idea. I don't really have a number on it. I think it's more of like the lifestyle that I want to hit and then back it up from there. So I played around with a number. I think I've had ideas of like 10,000 a month from like passive income, but I think as people grow, that number just changes based off their lifestyle. I try not to have a crazy amount of lifestyle creep. So I'm sure it will change some more
Got
in the
it.
meantime.
And what is your and what is your path forward to get into larger deals? Are you looking for partnerships, or are you trying to take those on by yourself? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so for this next one that I'm trying to do, this one would be on my own, but I have had the idea of like, there's so many good examples of like partnering explodes growth, like 1+1 is 3 type of thing.
Exactly.
So I'm looking to try to position myself more to be able to get into those deals, whether it's taking some equity out of like other properties and investing with others, or just networking with folks. But the goal is to partner, because I think I can go a lot further. I don't have to do the things that I don't necessarily want, as long as you get the right kind of partner that likes doing those things or is willing to do those things. So I think that's like the future growth goal.
Gotcha. And so you're looking at deals and analyzing them and bringing them to folks, or are you first looking to basically do one on your own before you bring in partners?
So I think a mix of both. Why not? Why not do both? Yeah, basically keeping an eye out, putting yourself in situations to be able to get those kind of deals, and knowing the right people that can get those accomplished, and bringing to them, adding value to them, to bring yourself along with that. I think that's like the goal. And then, basically just I think luck is an important thing, but luck doesn't work if you don't put yourself out there.
Exactly.
And do like the grind and the other work to do it. So that's basically the position that I'm trying to move with.
Got it. Tell us a little bit about what inspires you. Is there any specific books that you read that really changed you? Any podcasts that you listen to, and where you get your basically information from?
Yeah, at the start, like engineering background, I did not like reading at all. I probably didn't do any like reading for fun until like I started getting into real estate investing. I read so many of the Bigger Pockets books.
Nice. Those are the best.
They are quite good. Once you start reading more of them, there is a lot of overlap with them. But I'd say one of the better ones for starting out is probably like the House Hacking Strategy by like Craig Kurlop. That's a great one because it gives you house hacking has to be the best way to start. Understand if you start investing later in your life, that might not be as easy of an option, but it's the best way to start for most of us. And then for growth, the 80-20 principle is probably one of the better ones. Basically the concept that like 80% of your revenue or growth happens with 20% of your deals, clients, that type of thing. And for you to focus more on those, not focus on the other 80, well, that might be like scary or concerning. The only way for you to like 10x or so is to focus on those top producing ones.
Exactly. And that might mean having to sell off some that are more of a headache factor, even though they look good on paper because it's such a large deal or a large number, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Even though like now this like Worcester fourplex cash flows very nicely, I have to step up my game and move to the next thing, and that means like selling this one and trying to move on. I ran the numbers for like pulling the equity out of it, and ultimately I chose that I wasn't going to do that. I was just going to 1031 exchange it, and try to get more units under one roof as opposed to like being spread out.
Got it. And what was the decision for that specific property? Were you looking at internal rate of return, just headache factor, or maximizing cash flow?
Mostly maximizing cash flow and shrinking expenses. So that was kind of like the big one. With that goal of appreciation is always great, but I usually treat it as like the icing on top of the cake. And I don't necessarily target it, especially back to the fact of like not having a lot of money to build it. I think cash flow is always needed, and appreciation, at least in Massachusetts, appreciation will come.
Yeah,
that's not true for all ones, so you have to be careful with that, like all markets. But getting that cash flow puts you in such a nice state of being able to have flexibility of like buying other deals or doing riskier things. that cash flows the current goal.
Got it. And so once you sell this property and you free up all that cash, you're immediately going into looking for your first 5+ unit deal.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's the goal. I currently have one with an offer accepted, so I'm kind of under the gun of
Getting that 1031 exchange.
Yeah, getting that 1031 exchange. So
very nice.
That's my first go at it. Luckily, I'm surrounded by people that have done it before, and even like a week ago, Andrew gave me some advice of something I didn't know. So
yeah,
always learning is the goal as well.
Always going to Andrew for advice. That's the goal.
Yeah, he'll give it to you. He's pretty good.
Yep.
No matter how blunt, he'll give it to you. Yeah.
And so with every single house that you purchased, that was a house hack, and you moved in, did some live-in renovations, and moved on to the next. That is a lot of moving in the last 4 years.
Yeah, I had the benefit that my fiance was in medical school, so she didn't have to move around with me. And I was basically like, after I bought that fourplex, with it taking so long, I didn't know if I could move into another place. I did find out, along with the network idea, I did talk to some lenders and some other agents. There's a 5% down conventional that doesn't care about FHA, because you can only have one FHA out at a time.
Exactly.
So the 5% down conventional is that next good step for a house hacker. And I basically bought a duplex in Leicester, which is right next to Worcester. That was a perfect setup for it. A 3-bed, 1-bath that was rented, and then a vacant, very small 1-bed, 1-bath. And I basically moved in there and did a live-in flip, reconfigured the kitchen to be more functional, redid the bathroom, and then there were some weird oddities. There was no door to the bedroom, so I framed out a door and did other renovations while I was there.
Yeah,
that was a fun one. That was the first one that was like a live-in flip, and then did that again with another duplex in Worcester. Basically renovated a 3-bed, 2-bath, and then did a little like roommate situation until I moved recently for my fiance's job.
very cool. Yeah, that's one thing that can really accelerate your growth is if you are young and single and don't mind moving a lot, or if you have a fiance that can basically have the patience for doing that with you, you can go from property to property, especially live in flips, very quickly and build up a portfolio.
Yeah, and as you go through it, you realize like the things that make it a little bit easier to do it. Like live-in flips are easy from the standpoint of, okay, I'm done, I'm at home already, I can work on this, as opposed to like with that fourplex, I wasn't living there because I couldn't. I was basically having to travel there. That extra little step of like having to get started is difficult at times.
It's almost like the gym. If the gym is an hour away, you're less motivated. But if you come home and there's your sink project or there's your cabinets, might as well put in a couple hours before bed, right?
Exactly. So those live-in flips are so much easier to get going and started, as long as you have the patience of being able to live in a live-in flip.
Oh man, when I was younger and getting started, my first 2 or 3 house hacks, I would just bring in a inflatable mattress, have like a tiny like little stand with like my laptop and some personal things, and just work for 2-3 months and get that thing all built up and right over to the next unit.
Yeah, my undergrad was at a military college down in Virginia. So in that, I lived in a barracks for like 4 years with like minimal stuff, like tightly packed with 3 other roommates.
So you're already used to that minimalist living.
Yeah, so I can do it pretty easily. So,
nice.
But now moved to Boston. We're living in a nice unit, and then I'm renovating the unit above. So we don't have to actually live in the unit being rented, but it still has that easy factor of I just walk upstairs to do the renovations.
That's perfect.
So, yeah.
And hey, if it all works out, maybe this is the last one, and from now on, you're going to be doing big boy jobs with big boy renovations.
Maybe we don't plan on moving for at least the next 3-4 years.
Got it.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea at this point.
Very cool. So, Ian, as we wrap up, what advice do you have for somebody that wants to get started, or someone that might be a little bit of afraid of a house hack or a live-in flip situation?
Yeah, I'd say the easiest thing of getting beyond that like ledge of the unknown is going to meetups, That's the easiest thing. You're going to be seeing people that are slightly ahead of you and at the same state as you and really ahead of you. And while those really ahead of you might be intimidating, just like being able to work with those people that are around you that are doing the same thing, have the same worries, and talking through that, and then talking through like building your network of like agents, lenders, understanding what you have to actually do as opposed to like what you think you have to do to get started, is like the really easy next step of like figuring out and calming the nerves of what you're going to do. Because there's a lot of people that want to help you out. Real estate is competitive from the standpoint of like we're putting in offers technically against each other in a lot of cases, but I'd say it's probably like one of the most helpful communities, even though we're all competing with each other. It's like very strange nuance I did not expect to happen.
I don't even see it necessarily as competition. If two of you are going for the same house, why not have a combined offer, work together, partner up? That's less money out of your own pocket and some extra help in getting.
If that works out, then I'm sure in some cases that does. But at the end of the day, you know, there's usually no hard feelings, and it's like on to the next. That's the attitude you have to have. Andrew and Zach do it really well. They throw out so many offers. You kind of become numb to it, and you have to take those reps of throwing out offers. Otherwise, you're like you're gonna get your heart set up for like you're gonna wait, and you're gonna get your heart set up on one building, and the likelihood is you're not going to get it, and then you don't want to be defeated and just stop right there. You have to keep getting after it.
Yeah, you can't have emotions in this at all. Everything's a number at the end of the day.
That's what being an engineer makes it so much better.
Exactly. Cool. All right. And with that, that was our episode with Ian Hogan. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.